Welcome back to Monster Tamer, a 2D Pokemon-like RPG created Phaser 3. Previously, we wrapped up our inventory section, and we added in the ability to allow players to use items in their game. If you missed the previous videos, there'll be links in the video description to the source code up to this point, as well as complete source code for this video. There will also be a link to the previous videos if you'd like to catch up. So let's get started. So now we wrapped up our inventory section, and we allow players to use items from our menu. We're going to start working on our battle scene again. And in our battle scene, we're going to do a number of enhancements. The first one we're going to focus on is using items while we're in battle. So we're going to extend some of the logic we've already done for our inventory UI, so that way we can use that in our battle. From there, we're going to go ahead and work on adding some additional elements for some to-dos we left, such as the ability to actually run away from battle. We're going to enhance that so it's a little bit more random. We're going to enhance our enemy attacking so they use a random attack instead of just the first attack every time. And then we're going to work on adding like the player fainting, a random attack order, and then persisting our data after our battle. So then that way, if our monsters have damage, we'll persist that across battles. So in order to add support for using items during battle, we're going to need to modify our battle menu and our battle scene. And what we're going to need to do is in our battle menu, we originally left a to-do for when the player chooses to use an item, and we just had a simple message as, hey, you have no items. So we're going to need to go ahead and replace that with logic to actually launch our inventory scene. And then that way we can then choose an item and then choose a monster and have it come back to battle. So to get started with these changes, let's jump over to our battle menu class, and we want to come down to our handle player choose main battle option. And this is where we'll want to go ahead and replace our code that we have in our to-do for where we choose our item. So what we'll want to do is let's go ahead and replace all this code here. We'll keep our return. And the first thing we'll do, we'll want to go ahead and set our active battle menu option. So we'll go ahead and change this to be item, battle item. And then we want to go ahead and launch our next scene. And so we're going to go ahead and do this. We'll do our scene, and then we need to reference the scene manager. We want to go ahead and do launch, and we're going to go ahead and launch our inventory scene. So let's go grab our scene keys. We'll do our inventory scene. And then we need to go ahead and pass in our scene data. We'll come back to that in 1 second. And then we'll want to go ahead and pause our current scene. So we'll reference our scene that's passed to our battle menu, scene manager. We'll pause, and let's go ahead and do our scene keys, and we're going to go ahead and do our battle scene. So now we'll want to go ahead and pass in our data. And so what we'll do is let's add our type real quick. And so we'll have our type, and for our type, this is going to be our inventory scene data. And so we'll have an object. Let's do scene data to pass. We'll set equal to an empty object, and let's go ahead and do previous scene name. We'll do our scene keys, and we'll do our battle scene. And then we'll go ahead and pass this object where we had our empty object before. All right, so this is going to handle for us going from our battle scene to our inventory scene. And now we need to have logic for when we come back from our inventory scene back to our battle scene, so we can check to see if an item was actually used or not. And so originally we had our handle scene resume event firing. However, that's tied to our scenes, and our battle menu isn't an extension of our base scene. So what we need to do is we also need to add an event listener for that scene resume event for our battle scene. Then that way we can do that additional logic here. And so what we'll do is let's come to our constructor, and we're going to go ahead and add that event listener. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to our base scene class real quick. We're going to go ahead and come up to our create method where we have our logic for doing our handle scene resume and our shutdown. And so we're just going to copy those 2 lines of code. We'll come back to our battle menu. Let's go ahead and paste that. So instead of this event, it's going to be this, our private scene. And then what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and define our handle scene resume event. So let's come back to our base scene. Let's go ahead and just copy this block of code here. We'll come down to the bottom of our class. We'll go ahead and add that. And we're going to go ahead and make this private. And let's come back up to our constructor. We'll come back to that in a second. Go ahead and define that. And now for our cleanup, instead of having a method, we're just going to go ahead and do an arrow function. And so inside here, we're just going to do this. We'll do our scene. We'll do events. And we'll turn off our event listener. So we'll have phaser, scenes, events, resume. And we'll go ahead and pass in our handle scene resume method. And then our context. So that'll turn off our event listener. Let's come back down to our method. All right, so in our method, for data, this won't be optional. We know it'll come back on every call. And let's go ahead and update our type. So this is going to be inventory item used data. And then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and update our console log. So let's just get rid of this logic here. We'll go ahead and paste this. And then instead of doing this.log, let's do console.log. We'll go ahead and change this to battle menu.name. And we will do handle scene resume. We'll change our message to be scene has been resumed. Data provided. All right, so what we'll do is we're gonna go ahead and test some of our changes real quick. Let's jump over to our preload scene. And what we wanna do is we're gonna go ahead and launch our battle scene. And then let's come over to our data manager and let's go ahead and update our monster starting HP to be 15. And we're gonna go ahead and turn off our battle animations just so it's a little bit easier to test. And then what we should be able to do is if we come back to our browser, let's go ahead and go into our console and let's go ahead and clear our local storage. And then that will have a fresh set of data. All right, and so when it refreshes, we should be able to test. So if we choose item, and if we go ahead and do cancel, we'll see we're taken back to our battle scene. However, we're not able to choose an option. And so what we'll need to do is we're going to need to check to see if anything was used, and then go ahead and put us back on our main menu from our battle. And so what we'll do is we'll just add an if statement, and we'll just say if data is undefined or not data item used. So if that's false, then what we want to do is basically take our player back to the main battle menu. And so we'll just do this. We'll do switch to main battle menu, and then we'll go ahead and return. So now if we go ahead and save, we should be able to test that. And let's go ahead and do item. We'll do cancel. We are now back, and now we can continue our fight. Perfect. And now, if we go ahead and do item, let's do potion, but let's cancel and not use it. And we'll cancel, and all right, and that still works. So if we do potion, let's go ahead and heal our monster. Now we're taken back to our battle scene, and now we're in the same spot where we don't see our main battle menu, and we need to update our actual monster's HP. And so what we're going to actually want to do is once we get back to our battle scene, we're going to update our info pane to have a message that says, hey, you use the following item. And then we want to actually heal our monster so it's visible. And so to track that, we need to update our battle menu to have a new property to track if an item was actually used. So what we'll do is let's come up to the top of our class. We're going to go ahead and add a new Boolean property. So let's just copy this, and we're going to do used item. And what we'll do is let's come down to our constructor. Let's go ahead and set that to false. So we'll do used item. We'll set equal to false. And then what we'll do is let's come down to our show main battle menu, and we'll also go ahead and set it to false there. So we'll do used item, we'll set it equal to false. Now let's come down to our method, and now we want to actually set that to true if an item was actually used. So if our item was used, then we'll go ahead and set this used item to true. And now we want to update our message. So we'll do update info pane message and wait for input. And so for our messages, we're just going to do you used the following item, and we'll go ahead and grab our data. So we'll do data item name, and we'll go ahead and save. And then real quick before we test, we actually need to add a getter so we can get that property, and then we can actually use it in our battle scene. And so we'll do get was item used, and we'll return this used item. And so let's go ahead and throw in our type. And so this will just be a Boolean. So now if we want to go ahead and test, we'll go into our battle scene. Let's choose item. We'll use a potion on our monster to heal them. We'll come back. We can see our message is showing. Perfect. And then nothing happens. So what we need to do now is we need to check for this in our battle scene. And then that way we can heal our monster and we can go back and have the enemy attack. So let's go ahead and jump over to our battle scene. And what we'll want to do is we'll come down to where we check for our player input. So let's come down to our update method, and when we check for our space key. And so we'll go ahead and do our handle player input OK. And now we're just going to check if the player used an item. And so we're just going to do if our battle menu was item used. Then we want to go ahead and do our battle state machine. And we're going to go ahead and set our state. And now we're going to move right into where our enemy provides their input. So we'll do our battle states, and we're going to go ahead and do enemy input, and we'll need to return early so we don't do the rest of our logic. So now what we'll want to do is we need to come down to our battle state. So originally after our enemy chooses their attack, we immediately move to our battle state. And what we have there is we have our player then go ahead and attack. But because they're using an item, we don't want to do that. Instead, we want to go ahead and have the player's monster get healed, and then our enemy monster would attack, and our player wouldn't actually be able to attack. So what I'm going to do is just add a comment. We'll do if item was used, only have enemy attack. And so what we'll do is we're just going to reference our battle menus. We'll do this. We'll do our battle menu. We'll do was item used. And if that's true, we'll go ahead and return early. And what we'll want to do is we need to update our monster's health. And so for our monster, we don't have an easy way to go ahead and do that for the time being. So what we'll want to do is we need to add that method to our class. So let's go ahead and open up our player battle monster class. Let's come down to the bottom of our class. And we're going to go ahead and add a new public method. And we're just going to do update monster health. And we'll need to know what that new HP is that we're updating to. So we'll do updated HP. And so what we'll do is we'll go ahead and update our current health. So we'll update our protected property. This current health is going to be equal to our updated HP. And then what we'll do is we'll add a safeguard just to make sure we don't go over our max. We'll do if this current health is greater than this max health. We're going to go ahead and reset it back to the max health. And then we're going to go ahead and update our health bar. So we'll need to actually update our game object. And so we'll reference our health bar. We're going to go ahead and use our method to update the value. We'll go ahead and call set meter percentage animated. And so we'll take this current health and we're going to divide it by this max health. And then for our options, we're going to go ahead and set skip battle animations to be true. And then that way the health bar would just fill right back up. And then we'll need to update our health bar text as well. So we'll do this, set health bar text, and then that way it'll update its value based on what's set there. So now what we should be able to do is back in our battle scene, we should be able to go ahead and call this method. So we're going to go ahead and do our active player monster. We're going to go ahead and call our new update monster health. And now we need to grab our updated value from our data manager. So in our monster party scene, after we use an item, we went ahead and updated our monster's details in the data manager. And so we'll need to go ahead and grab that value. And so what we're going to do is we'll do data manager, store, we'll call the get method. We use our data manager store keys, and we want to grab our monsters in party. And then we want to grab our first monster from there. And we're going to go ahead and grab the current HP. Then after we go ahead and do that, we're just going to add a very small delay and we'll have our enemy attack. And so that way our message will still appear for the player. And so we'll do this. We'll do time. Let's do delay call. We'll do 500 milliseconds. And what we'll go ahead and do is we'll just do this enemy attack. And then we'll return early. So now we should be able to go ahead and test our changes. So let's go ahead and come into our battle. Let's go ahead and choose item. We'll choose our potion. We'll go ahead and choose our monster. So let's say, hey, we use the following item. We hit OK. We'll see now that because we're skipping our animations, it's very quick, but we saw our health bumped up and we went ahead and went right into our enemy attack. So if we go ahead and do fight and we go ahead and fight, let's go back into our item. We'll see we have no potions and everything's working how we expect. And so what we're going to do really quick is let's come back to our data manager and we're going to go ahead and turn back on our animations. And just so we can make sure everything's working how we expect. So let's go ahead and clear our local storage real quick. We'll go ahead and refresh. We'll have our battle scene. Get through our animations. Let's go ahead and use our item. We'll heal our monster. We now have our text appear. We hit OK, and then everything jumps ahead and the enemy attacks. Perfect. All right, so now we tested our changes. Let's go ahead and revert back our HP, and then that way it's back where we expect, and we'll come back to our preload scene, and we're going to change this back to our title scene. All right, with that actually brings this video to an end. In our next video, we're going to continue working on our battle scene, and so we're going to add in some logic for having a random attack order, and having our enemy do a random attack as well. So as a reminder, there's a link in the description of the video to the complete source code for this video, and as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the content. If you did enjoy the video, please consider liking the video and hitting the bell icon to be notified when the next video in the series is released. For more great Phaser 3 content, please see the links on your screen now.